Hello and welcome to CrossTalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. Donald Trump is again at the nexus of American politics. He's also the first American president to face jail time. The entire legal apparatus of the state appears to be aligned against Trump. Can the rule of law survive this legal odyssey? Cross-talking Trump, I'm joined by my guest Lionel in New York. He is a legal and media analyst. Also in New York, we have Margaret Kimberly. She is executive editor of Black Agenda Report. And in Boston, we cross to sabrinasalvati. She is host of Sabby Sabs podcast and co-host of Revolutionary Blackout Network. Cross-talk rules in effect. That means you can jump anytime you want, and I always appreciate it. Lionel, you're the lawyer here. Explain to us if this whole gambit against Trump is actually going to work. I really don't want to waste valuable time about talking about the veracity of the charges against him. Even his most ardent critics find them to be very, very weak. So what is the big picture? What is happening here, Lionel?
The big picture is he is looking at a total of 6 separate cases, both criminal and civil. This Manhattan case is 34 counts of felonies. That's the first of a series. Let me just say something right now, irrespective, as you said, of whether he was a good president or whether you like Trump or not. Anybody who thinks that the colloquy or the couch group on Fox News is going to somehow change the reality of the juridical case of this is a waste of time. These cases are, as specious as they may seem to some, absolutely valid for the most part. There is a 99% chance that none of these will be dismissed prior to trial, and a 99% chance that he could very well be convicted by a jury of his, quote, peers. Very quickly, no Democratic appointed judge of any future aspiration would ever be responsible for dismissing a case prior to trial. And can you imagine being a juror in Manhattan that voted 80% against Trump is going to be the talk of her or his neighborhood by saying, I was the lone holdout who voted to acquit Trump. So could he get a fair trial here? Absolutely not, if fairness means looking at the facts of the case irrespective of the defendant.
Well, that's the point, Margaret. It's not about having justice. It's not having a fair trial. It's the outcome that they want. And again, you can love or hate Donald Trump. That's not the point here. But that seems to be, and it seems to me that his constitutional rights are being grossly violated, because if he can't get a fair trial, then what's the point of justice? Go ahead, Margaret.
Well, it's the thing that we should know here is this is what prosecutors do all the time. They have discretion. They don't have to charge people. They make decisions all the time whether to charge or not. And this is how they operate. It's one of the reasons there are 2 million people in jail in this country, because everything is stacked against them. I see no reason why he ought to be charged with the crime that, in my opinion, a minor offense that took place before he took office that has nothing to do with the office of the presidency. He was trying to hide his personal affairs from the public. And this, the financial affairs, and yes, in New York State, if you falsify business records, you can be charged with that. But again, prosecutors have discretion. This is an effort to try to get rid of Trump altogether. And the way to get rid of Trump for Democrats is to serve the people, to do what they say they're going to do. And if they did that, they wouldn't have to worry about a former president who created many of his own problems himself. But this just shows you how bankrupt our political system is. And it shows you how cynical, and I believe, frankly, how stupid they are in using this case to get rid of someone who they could get rid of by doing their jobs. Yeah,
Sabrina, on the face of it, again, you know, I'm not a lawyer here, but looking at these charges here, they seem so frivolous to me. It's basically bookkeeping errors, okay, and that's discretionary as well. And of course, it never happened to anyone else in the history of building. I mean, it seems so absurd here, but what Lionel is absolutely right, and I think this is what's really dangerous, is that you could have the most frivolous case brought to trial, and it's going to just go through like a factory. You know, the jury says guilty, okay, and then they have the sentencing and all that. It has nothing to do with the merits of the case. And if they can do it to Donald Trump, again, you don't have to like him, then what's stopping them to do it to the rest of us? Go ahead in Boston.
Well said. I believe this is 100% politically motivated. They're just trying to prevent Donald Trump from running in 2024. I feel like this is really more of a distraction. I feel like a lot of the focus on Donald Trump in this case in particular, and a lot of the media coverage of this is just to distract the American people from the real problems that we have in this country right now. There's no consistency in reference to the law. I don't see them trying to prosecute other millionaires or billionaires for having bad business dealings. The focus is on Donald Trump to prevent him from running in 2024. And whether people like him or not, you have to ask yourself, is this fair? So as long as we are distracted by Donald Trump in this particular case, the American people will continue to be divided, and we're not focused on the class issue that we have in this country and the fact that a lot of these billionaires are exploiting the working class. So as long as we are politically divided, we will never come together for any type of class movement in this country.
Well, don't never mention class. That'll get you in a lot of trouble. I get in trouble all the time for talking about it. Okay, conservatives are not supposed to talk about class. Well, yes, we are. We're supposed to do that. I'm glad you said that. Lionel, about a month ago, before all the leaks about a potential indictment and all that, Trump was there. You know, he was making, on the stump. He was talking to people, getting his campaign together, but he wasn't front and center. Now he's going to be front and center for the next 18 months at least. This has empowered him immensely, and think of all of the free media time he gets. Do the Democrats know what they're doing? Lionel.
Well, the answer to that is no, but I beg to differ. Now, this is the political argument now, not the legal. I beg to differ when somehow this is going to empower him, that people who are riding the fence, those who were not sure about him, those who were kind of like really undecided, now, by virtue of seeing this avalanche of injustice, will somehow be lulled and pulled into the Trump camp. That's balderdash. That's absolute bunkum. But what's happening right now is there's something which is more interesting. The electorate here has a sense of habituation. We've been hit for so long that we're numb. We had two impeachments. We have a total of 6 cases. People aren't sure about whether it's criminal or this New York or upstairs. It's coming apart at the seams. Let me explain to me very quickly. This particular DA, this is the irony of this. This is the message is that he is a Soros-funded progressive prosecutor, one of many. There's something called critical legal studies, and this is the precursor to critical race theory. Now listen to this irony. This prosecutor has basically declassified and lowered like 40% of all felonies to misdemeanors under this theory. Yet this restorative justice, bringing people together, eschewing the notion of class differences in the criminal justice system, let burglars and armed robbers go. Let's try to find a new way to deal with this. Yet when it comes to Trump, the most punctilious, fastidious, nitpicking, these statutes used, not necessarily because of a business record statute, but to show that he did this in order to cover up a crime that the prosecutor has yet to define.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Lionel, because we don't know what the crime is. This is just how absurd this is here. Margaret, Lionel brings up a really good idea. I don't think there are any fence sitters in American politics when it comes to Donald Trump. Everybody's decided one way or another, okay? And that's a long time ago, okay? But what it does is we don't talk about the political issues that are important to everyone here. This, as Sabrina put it, this is the most absurd sideshow, and it doesn't hold the feet to other candidates, particularly Democrats. You know what they stand for, okay? And this is the absurdity of it all. It's such a disservice to the entire electorate. Margaret.
Oh, it is. Let's look at what's happening in the world. the world is moving away from the dollar. The dollar is, for now, the world reserve currency, but it's not going to be in a few years, and that's entirely because of the amateurish Biden foreign policy regarding Ukraine and their foolish thinking they can contain Russia or diminish China or whatever. But this is going to impact ordinary people. We have the COVID era safety net disappearing, people who were already low income losing SNAP benefits. Now Medicaid enrollments are going to be impacting millions of people, and no one is talking about it. Unemployment, inflation, all of these things that have a direct impact on people's lives are not being addressed by our political system. And that's exactly why this case has been elevated by the corporate media, who are mouthpieces for the establishment in this country. And we see this effort to elevate Trump in order to destroy him, in order to distract people from the things that Democrats don't address either. And as I said before, if they did, if the Democrats were as advertised, they wouldn't have to worry about Donald Trump or DeSantis or anyone else. And that is where we are today with the public that is either lulled to sleep or propagandized in any number of ways. And
well,
this is
what they do is, Sabrina, what they're doing, they want the electorate to be angry. That's all they want, to be angry about something. But that doesn't solve any problems. Go ahead, Sabrina, before we go to the break.
This is true. I don't think this is actually going to hurt Trump in a sense of the public's eye. I think that this is actually helping Donald Trump. Some people are looking at him now as like a martyr figure of sorts. They're like, he is the ultimate victim now. So I don't think this is doing what the Democratic Party thought it was going to do. Donald Trump right now has moved ahead of Ron DeSantis in the polls, even though Ron DeSantis has not formally announced it seems to be heading in that direction. And while a lot of people are focused on this situation with Donald Trump, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just filed paperwork with the FEC to primary challenge Joe Biden. And so it's taking your attention away from things like that. So I think people need to understand that sometimes bad press can actually be good press.
Donald Trump is a master at that. I'm going to go jump in here. We're going to go to a short break, and after that short break, we'll continue our discussion on Donald Trump. Stay with our team. Welcome back to CrossTalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. To remind you, we're discussing Donald Trump. Okay, let's go back to Lionel in New York. Lionel, there's always been this fear of election meddling from outsiders. We went through almost 4 years of Russiagate, hoax, and now we have another one here. I mean, this is the ultimate form of election meddling, interference here. They're trying to determine the nominee for the GOP. Now, you don't have to like the GOP or not, but shouldn't the people decide who the nominee is, not the corporate media and even establishment Republicans that, by the way, have not stood up for Donald Trump at all? Go ahead, Lionel.
Well, one of the things that Donald Trump could do, which he's not doing, is to remind folks of this wonderful thing called the Constitution, and an interesting quote, which has always been attributed to Mr. Beria during the Stalin regime, who said something to the effect, I believe, to paraphrase, "Show me the man and I'll show you the crime." What he is the victim of right now is the most un-American example of target prosecution. This is, instead of the law enforcement individuals waiting to have someone come to them that has victimized somebody else, they go looking for somebody. So isn't it ironic in this Russophobic, Kremlin-baiting world that we live in right now, where we're always pointing to this horrible, and people still use the word Soviet, even though that's anachronistic, yet here we are in the case of a former president, and I don't want to bring up the term banana republic, but just think about this, and this is the million-dollar question, and I ask all my friends, if Donald Trump were not possibly running in 2024, if that was somehow off the table, would he be prosecuted for anything? And the answer is no. And therein lies the reality of this.
Hey, Margaret, you know, one of the interesting things that come out, about from this is media ratings. Have you noticed how CNN and MSNBC actually have an audience again? I mean, they're going to repeat this entire circus again. The cynicism, there's no bounds for the level of cynicism that these people have. And so what they do is, as Sabrina has pointed out, is so many social problems that we're facing, and now we're going to have another 18-month soap opera here. And CNN and MSNBC, they are so happy Donald Trump is back. Their bread ticket is back. That's cynical. Go ahead, Margaret.
Oh, it's very cynical. And I'm glad you pointed out the issue of election interference, which American presidents do routinely. Trump did it in Venezuela, trying to overturn what people there had chosen. Although these crimes that American presidents commit, which truly are crimes, invading Iraq, Bush, or destroying Libya, Obama, or Trump targeting Venezuela, those are acceptable. And those are things that they will never be touched for, never be called to account for. The worst crimes presidents can commit, but Donald Trump has committed, in my opinion here, assuming these charges are true, minor offenses, but that's what he's called to account for. And the way the U.S. acts around the world, bullying other countries, threatening other countries, proxy wars, sanctions, all coups, all sorts of things nobody ever talks about. It's entirely acceptable to the political class. These projects are always bipartisan. But here in this country, we see this is election interference. But even as we point that out, we should say that this is what Trump and other presidents have done, but it's something that's never addressed.
Yeah. Sabrina, one of the interesting things that come out of this here is that it seems to me the establishment, both Republican and Democrat, okay, they want to see Trump supporters react. They want another January 6th. They want violence. They want the pictures. They want this narrative here. Because what they want to do is they want to cancel Trump, but Trump is a cudgel for them to cancel his supporters. And I think that's part of the plan here. I think that's why they're going to spread, Trump's back in court in December or something like that. That's what they want to spread this out. They have a much more elaborate game to play here because they're not just going after Trump. They're going after his supporters.
Correct. And the media actually is committing election interference here. We did see during Donald Trump's response to these allegations that he was cut off during the MSNBC premiere of the speech here. They actually cut away from his speech while he was talking once he started to criticize the Biden presidency. And whether you like what Trump has to say or not, to me, that was election interference because they knew that he was calling out Joe Biden's issues and faults since he's been in office, and they didn't want the audience to hear that. But we live in a country where the DNC has argued in court that they can handpick politicians in the back of a room. We live in a country that has meddled in other countries' elections, where they have chosen political leaders like the ones in Haiti, where they have removed political leaders through these regime change wars. But the same country will argue and try to say that Russia interfered in the U.S. elections. And then we had the whole hysteria over Russiagate. So the problem that we run into is that the U.S. government wants to police the entire world, and they want to tell these other countries what they can and cannot do. When it comes to someone like Donald Trump, again, I think this is a big distraction, and they're not consistent with it. I don't see them trying to hold other politicians accountable for their business dealings as well. So we'll see what happens, but it's very clear here they're already trying to meddle in the 2024 election.
Yeah. Well, Sabrina, as MSNBC moved away from Donald Trump's speech, Fox News had 6 million viewers, 6 million watching that speech. Okay, so they shot themselves in the foot. Lionel, do the Democrats want Donald Trump to be the GOP nominee?
You know, this is the ultimate question. I would venture to say yes.
Yeah, I do
he
too.
Is the most.
I do too.
But let me tell you something. And you bring up a very good point. I must say this. there is a schizoid reaction that we have here regarding this thing called interference. The biggest problem with January 6th, the reason why they are still investigating President Trump for that, because remember, there's about 6 total investigations going on. There's something in our laws called seditious conspiracy. And basically what it means is if 2 or more people conspire to basically interfere with some type of legislative process. In that particular case, it was a certification of the vote with Mike Pence and others. This January 6th maelstrom of lunacy somehow violated that. We talk about that. You can be a campaign obstructor if you're Russian, but if you're Hillary Clinton and you claim that it was stolen, that's okay. You can be a denier. If you're Stacey Abrams, that's okay. And what's interesting also is the greatest example of obstruction of the process is indicting the front runner. This is, I hate to keep saying banana republic, but this is third world lunacy. So it's schizophrenic, for me and not for thee. The whole premise, Hillary Clinton's entire message was, they stole this from me. And nobody ever arrested her. She hasn't even gotten a parking ticket. Let me also tell you, this is a woman who destroyed countless files. It was never, ever talked about. And one more thing. The Hunter Biden administration, or excuse me, the criminal conspiracy of Hunter Biden, which has been alleged by everybody, not so much as a peep. So we're weaponizing the Department of Justice, the state courts, everybody against Trump, but in examples of actual blatant, flagrant examples of criminality and felonious behavior, it's not even noticed. It's schizophrenic, it's disjointed, it's insane.
Margaret, why should voters have any belief in elections anymore if this is the kind of electioneering that we're seeing? I mean, again, I don't have to promote Trump or be against him here, but in 2016, he said, what do you have to lose? Okay, because the middle class has been absolutely crushed, okay? Not to speak of working people. I mean, the last thing people had was the vote, and they exercised it. You can like or dislike what they did, but even that seems to now be taken away if you don't vote the right way. It's criminalizing dissent. Margaret.
Well, that's what they've always done, though. Why is Joe Biden the nominee? They picked him. They were afraid of Bernie Sanders being the nominee. They cheated him. They got the others to drop out. The Democratic Party oligarchs picked Joe Biden, banana republic style. So this is the sort of thing that goes on all the time. But it is just being shown here in high relief because it's Donald Trump. We don't have real democracy. We don't have fair and free elections. We have rich people picking candidates. We have smoke-filled rooms choosing who nominees are going to be. So this is a continuation of something that's been going on all the time. And I really do hope that people pay attention and stop talking about this democracy that Trump is supposed to have destroyed, which we don't have in the first place.
Well, Sabrina, again, kind of stressing the question of how people should react to this kind of political circus here, because, there's this mantra that it's okay to do it to Trump, okay? That's okay, because he's so bad, he's so dangerous that it's justifiable. But that creates a precedent, doesn't it? And I don't see why people would have a lot of faith in the electoral system if it is so subjective. Sabrina.
They shouldn't have faith in the electoral system. I mean, we live in a country where third party and independent candidates have to fight to even get on the ballot in different states in this country. So we don't really have a true democracy. If we did, third party and independent candidates would also be allowed on the debate stage. So I think even with the situation with primary challenging Joe Biden, there's the opportunity that Joe Biden doesn't even have to engage or debate RFK Jr. or Marianne Williamson. That's just the reality of the situation that we live in. But I think they're going after Trump because Trump was crass and because Trump criticized the deep state. And when that happens, you have 2 options. You can either conform and go along with the status quo, or you will be criticized, you will be canceled, and they'll push you out. And we saw this happen with former politicians like Dennis Kucinich, where they actually redrew his district so that he didn't have one, so he couldn't come back to Congress. And we've seen this happen with Cynthia McKinney as well, where they challenged her and pushed her out. That came from her own party, not from the Republican Party. So I think the idea is to maintain the status quo, and anyone who goes outside of those bounds is going to be pushed out and is going to be canceled.
Lionel, last 20 seconds go to you.
This is going to be, again, sad to say, this is the American judicial system front and center. And what happens is, again, I can't say it enough, target prosecution is one of the most un-American, unconstitutional aspects to this. So the reverberations, I hope, will last many, many years from now, and I hope it does something to inspire change and change immediately.
Well, I hope we'll all survive it, because there's so much at stake, all of the social problems that we've mentioned here, that this political class just doesn't want to mention. That's all the time we have. I want to thank my guests in New York and in Boston, and I want to thank our viewers for watching us here at RT. See you next time. Remember, CrossTalk rules.